What happens when the truth no longer matters, and the only thing that does is how viral your story can go? John Denver Trending begins with a boy. Ordinary, quiet, rural, but by the end of the film, that boy becomes something else entirely. A hashtag, a scapegoat, and eventually content for a world that chews up a tragedy for entertainment. This is not just a story about cyberbullying, it's a story about a society that has lost its ability to listen, a town so desperate to be righteous it becomes monstrous, and a system that punishes silence more than wrongdoing. In this video, we'll talk about the real horrors John Denver Trending exposes: the digital mob mentality, the fragility of truth, the failure of institutions, and the brutal cost of going viral when you're powerless. And if the title sounds familiar, that's because we've seen this play out in real life too, over and over. This is John Denver Trending. Let me tell you the story. The story unfolds in the quiet seaside town of Pandan Antique, a small community where everybody knows everybody and where gossip spreads faster than the sea breeze. John Denver Kabungal, a soft-spoken grade 8 student, is just trying to survive another day of school. During dance practice, he gets teased for not keeping up with the choreography. Already embarrassed, he storms off, only to be accused of stealing an iPad moments later. One classmate, McCoy, chases him down and ransacks his backpack. John Denver fights back. He kicks McCoy and grabs his bag. But of course, no one records the accusation or the bullying. What ends up online is only the retaliation. That short, shaky clip becomes the whole story. Within hours, a classmate uploads the video to Facebook, calling John Denver a thief and a demon. The caption dares the public to share it, even quoting, "Hanggang makarating kay Tatay Digong." And they do. From there, everything spirals. The post explodes into a nationwide witch hunt. Netizens turn into moral police. News outlets pick up the story. Even local officials chime in. Suddenly, John Denver isn't a 14-year-old kid anymore. He's a headline, a target, an enemy. What's heartbreaking is how quickly it all escalates. The boy is demonized. Fake accounts surface to testify against him. Even past mistakes, like accidentally killing a farmer's carabao, are dug up and twisted into new charges. The community that once knew John Denver now treats him like a virus. In school, he's been beaten up. At home, his hardworking mother Marites tries her best to defend her son, but even she gets dragged into the chaos. The authorities stepped in, not to help, but to humiliate. All the while, the internet demands blood. The film doesn't follow a traditional plot structure where justice is served or truths are uncovered. It slowly drowns you in helplessness, showing how a single moment, filmed, clipped, and posted, can destroy a life. By the time we reach the final scene, the noise is overwhelming. But John Denver's silence, that's the most deafening part of all. John Denver Trending might seem like a simple story at first. A kid accused of stealing, a video that goes viral, in a town that quickly turns on him. But underneath that is a devastating look at how quickly truth dies once the internet gets involved. One thing I noticed right away, the movie is in Kiniraya, the native dialect of Antique. I managed to get a copy with decent subtitles. Not perfect, but enough to follow. That said, some scenes didn't even need translation. The emotions were so raw, so familiar that the meaning came through anyway. Majority of the cast is made up of non-professional actors, and yes, you can tell, the acting doesn't have that polished, rehearsed feel. But instead of hurting the film, it makes it feel more real. Something is haunting about seeing a kid who's not a known actor break down in front of a camera. It feels like you're watching someone in real life, not a performance. That amateur roughness adds a kind of documentary-style realism to everything. And while watching, I couldn't help but think of Bambanti, a film we previously talked about. That one also dealt with a child accused of stealing, but it focused more on poverty and reputation. In John Denver Trending, it's not just about who's poor or rich. It's about how a digital mob mentality takes over and how truth becomes irrelevant in the face of a viral video. In both films, the thing that was quote unquote stolen is almost beside the point. The real theft is dignity. And in John Denver Trending, the internet becomes the perfect tool for that. Because the film doesn't just show bullying, it shows systemic failure. From the mayor to the media to the school, no one protects John Denver. Instead, they all join in, feeding off the chaos. There's a line in the movie's logic that feels disturbingly familiar. Why waste time investigating when we already know the truth? That's not just a line in the film, it's the mindset we've all seen online. In the end, the question this movie forces us to ask is, when everyone is shouting, who still listens? When a child's face becomes a meme, is there any way to undo the damage? And when a boy's death becomes content, are we all just complicit viewers? Let's talk about mob mentality in the age of shares. One of the most chilling parts of John Denver Trending is that there isn't one main villain. No monster, no murderer, just a collective, a town, a Facebook feed. When John Denver was falsely labeled a thief and a bully, the outrage didn't come from one person. It came from everyone, his classmates, their parents, strangers on the internet, even the school and the mayor. And all of them acted like they knew exactly what happened because they saw a 10-second video on Facebook. In today's digital world, justice isn't always about the truth. It's about who hits a share first. The boy in the video wasn't a student who fought back. He was a thief, a devil, and a bully, and no one needed to ask for context. The comment section was the trial. The likes and shares were the sentence. What the film does so powerfully is show how dangerous that can be, especially in rural communities, where offline relationships bleed into online hostility. John Denver's real-life neighbors become his worst enemies once they see his name trending. This is where John Denver Trending turns into a horror. Not the paranormal kind, but the kind that feels way too real. Because we've all seen it happen before. One clip, one post, and the internet eats a person alive. There's a reason why the film doesn't frame one clear villain, because sometimes the worst crimes are committed by crowds, not individuals. In this crowd, they were armed with likes, shares, and the terrifying belief that they were doing the right thing. Director Arden Rodcondes didn't just tell a story, he invited us to become part of the problem. And the way John Denver Trending is shot makes that deeply uncomfortable in the best possible way. The film is full of handheld, almost documentary-style shots. Shaky, unpolished, real. It doesn't try to stylize the events, and that's what makes it so hard to watch. The camera doesn't just follow the characters. Sometimes it feels like it's spying, like it's part of the intrusion. But there's one moment that stayed with me. Toward the end of the film, John Denver is running across a wide field with the camera trailing right behind him. And it doesn't cut away, it just follows. The chase didn't feel like it was just about his fear or shame. It felt like he was running away from us, the viewers, the audience, the online mob that turned his life into a content. And then it stops. We see him finally seated inside the house, helpless, alone. No music, no dialogue, just wind and the weight of everything that's happened. It's such a restrained but emotionally devastating moment. This is where the direction shines. Arden Rodcondes doesn't tell us what to feel. He lets us sit in that discomfort. The camera doesn't give us relief. It confronts us. And by the end of the film, we're forced to ask, were we just watching or were we also part of what happened? John Denver Trending doesn't scream. It doesn't preach, but it shows us a quiet kind of horror, the kind that creeps in when everyone decides they already know the truth. It's not a polished film. The acting isn't perfect. The audio mix has its rough edges. But none of that takes away from what this film achieves. The rawness adds to its power. There's a certain pain in watching something like this because it holds up a mirror, not just to the people in the film, but to all of us. John Denver Trending asks, when did we become so quick to punish, so desperate to be right, that we stopped asking what happened? It reminded me a lot of Bambanti, another story of accusation, of a mother and her child, of a community ready to judge before listening. But John Denver Trending adds a terrifying layer: the internet, the algorithm, the share button, and how easy it is to turn a real child into a trending topic. If you're still here watching, maybe that means you're willing to sit with that discomfort. And honestly, that's the first step. Because at the end of the day, John Denver Trending isn't just about a boy, it's about all of us and the consequences of our clicks.